Welcome to another video by AskMath.com. Let's read the directions to this problem. How many solutions does the system of equations have, given y equals 9x plus 3 and y equals 2? So let's remind ourselves what we're being asked. A system of equations is just two or more, in this case two equations, and whenever you have more than one equation, you can call it a system of equations. So we have a system of equations. And how many solutions just means if you were to graph these two equations, and remember, if you graph an equation that has two variables like x and y, and there is only math happening like addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division in the problem, no exponents for example, that those equations will make straight lines on a graph. So because we have two equations like that, we'll get two straight lines on a graph. And so how many solutions is the same question as asking how many places do those two lines cross each other. Well, there's only three different general ways that you can graph two straight lines. You could graph them so that you find out that they are parallel, in which case they never cross each other. So how many places do they cross each other? Zero. That would be zero solutions. You could graph them so that you find out that they do cross each other. And when that happens, it's at exactly one point. Because they're not curved, they can't come back and cross each other a second time, for example. So they just cross each other once. That's one solution. And the third possibility is that you could graph the first line, and then as you graph the second line, you realize that it's exactly on top of the first line. And that means that they cross each other every point along the line as far as you can go, which it keeps going forever in each direction, and so that's infinite solutions. Okay, so these are the three possible answers to this problem. To find out which of those possible answers is the answer to this particular system of equations, we have three options to try to decide. One is by graphing, as we've sort of done here, but we would need maybe some graph paper and a ruler. We'd have to be very careful to make sure that we get exactly the right answer. Usually to find the solution to a system, graphing is useful only if you want to get a visual sense of the answer. But to make sure that you find the exact answer, it's usually better to try one of the other two methods. Okay, so the other two methods are substitution or combination. Now, substitution or combination work well when substitution, if you have a variable all by itself like this on one side of the equal sign, and you can substitute that value in for the other for that same variable in the other equation. Combination works well when you have your variables lined up. If you line up your equal signs, are the variables lined up? And here they are, y is lined up. This 2 could be scooted over and lined up under the 3, and then there would just be no x in this bottom equation. So substitution would work, combination would work quite well in this case as well. However, we don't really need to do any work on this particular problem. And the reason is, let's remind ourselves of the possible outcomes if you tried to use one of those methods like substitution or combination to come up with an answer. If you can find the coordinates of a point, or if you can even find part of the pair of coordinates, so if you can find a value for x or if you can find a value for y, then you know that there is a solution. And you could always go ahead and find the other coordinate too if you'd like, but if you can find either the x or the y, you know that there's one solution. If you try one of those methods and you can't find an x or a y, then it would be one of these other two solutions. And in this particular case, the given information, y equals 2, that is telling us y is 2. So we know half of the answer to finding our coordinates, and so we know already that the answer is 1. Now, just to get a sense of this, although graphing isn't necessarily the best to make sure you have the exact right answer, it does allow us to sort of see why this is true. And remember that any y equals mx plus b form of equation, the number multiplied by x is the slope, and the number added to x is the y-intercept. And so if we want to just quickly sketch this out, we won't use a ruler, but we'll just try to be as accurate as we can so that we get a good picture. You start with the y-intercept, and you draw a point. and that point is going to be on the line that this equation makes. And then from that point, you follow the slope. Now the slope is 9, don't forget, over 1. And so that's the rise over run. So from this point, you go up 9, because it's a positive 9, that means up 9 instead of down 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then before you draw a point, not yet, you go to the right one, and it's to the right because it's a positive 1. If it were a negative, you would go to the left. Okay, so from here, we go right 1. So I'm just going to draw a little hash mark so we can line it up. And there it is. Up 9, right 1. Positive 9, positive 1. And then you connect those 2 points. Okay, then the other equation says y equals 2. So find a point where y equals 2, and a point like that is right here. And in fact, because it doesn't specify an x, remember that that means that x can be anything. Okay, and so every, oops, sorry, not there. There, all the points at a height of 2 and remember that the technical reason that that's true is if we rewrote this equation to be y equals, and how many x's are there? There are 0 x's and a positive 2. And 0 over 1 is still 0, and that's our rise and our run. So from any point on this line, you go up 0 into the right 1, up 0 into the right 1, up 0 into the right 1. Or don't forget that you could put a negative 1 there, and it doesn't change. 0 divided by negative 1 is still 0. So you can go the other direction. We haven't changed anything about this. This would still all disappear, 0 x's. And you could go up 0 to the left 1, up 0 to the left 1, up 0 to the left 1. And that's why this equation just makes a straight line like that. So you can see that because this one has a slope other than 0, and this one has a slope of 0, when you have two lines that have different slopes, you know that they will intersect each other. And so this is what it would look like. All right, so 1 is the solution because they crossed at exactly 1 point right there. And that's the end of this problem. Thanks for watching another video by AskMath.com. Don't forget to go to AskMath.com and check out the rest of the videos.